David, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me today.
No, thank you. It's a
Thank you.
pleasure. Right.
I had a chance to see Eternity maybe a week and a half ago, and I enjoyed it. But I actually want to start because I always, when I talk to someone, I want to look up and see what have they done before. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that you had directed a film I really liked before this called Dating Amber.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like in part because it's not an American movie, people know not quite as much, but I just think that is such a fun gem, and I'm very intrigued by the progression from dating Amber to this because I think it's another sort of unconventional friendship romance type thing. But I'm wondering about any through lines between these two films.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm really glad you saw it because I love that film. It was such a joy to make, and it was really autobiographical, so it was great. I think that was Dating Amber was obviously it's a smaller film, it's a very personal film set in Ireland, but it is at its heart a romantic comedy. It's a platonic friendship between or a love story between these two young gay kids, but it is a rom-com, and that's how we made it and how I wrote it. And I think it was the first time I really kind of explored comedy drama as a filmmaker and really fell in love with it and kind of really found that that's what I was best at and wanted to continue doing that. And it was the film that got the attention of my producers for Eternity, which is extraordinary. And I think that they saw something in that I could do on this slightly bigger scale. So I think there's a huge tonal similarity between the two of them. Just, one is a much bigger A24 film and the other one is a small, lovely little Irish film.
I love that Eternity starts, with these older people and you get to see them and hear them bickering and everything. And then when you meet their younger selves, they sound so much like
Yeah,
that. And I'm curious about that choice because I feel like they didn't have to like the notion of looking like you're like you did at your most content or your happiness. That makes sense to me, but I'm curious if that was something that always felt important to you or maybe could have been abandoned in some way.
yeah, it was always important to me. I think the idea of being kind of reborn at your happiest is such an essential part of the script, and I think there's all these beautiful reveals as to when and why each of our characters were happiest that lead to really heartbreaking and lovely revelations and moments in the film. So I just love that idea, and I love the idea that your happiest isn't necessarily your youngest or hottest. I think there's characters that are in their 70s who are most contented. And I did so much research before coming on board and writing of when people are their happiest. And very often it is when you're slightly older. And for men, very often they're happiest when they were 10-year-old boys because the world's so lightly geared towards 10-year-old boys. So it was really fun to explore that idea and just the simple concept of happiness and when that is. But I think the reason that similarity between our older actors who played Joan and Larry in the opening of the film so beautifully and Lizzie and Miles's performances is just down to them. They were extraordinary. The way Miles and Lizzie really reveled in being 90-year-olds in their bodies and the mannerisms and the behavior and the posture of that and how their voices would be and then how that would change over time as you realize your back isn't creaking or your knees aren't fecked and it was really lovely to see them kind of develop that and yeah, like they also we shot them first and we shot the older actors at the end of the film and we kept giving the older actors scenes and the Miles and Lizzie would send them voice notes so they could get the voice right. And so you feel that even though there's differences physically, you really feel that similarity. I think there's that scene when Miles first wakes up in the train to the junction from being old. And it's just I think there's something in the essence of them that's really striking. It really feels like the same person, which is kind of incredible.
I enjoy their performances a lot, but also as someone with more obscure references, I know
Yeah.
Callum Turner is very well known these days, but I remember watching a show called The Capture, which I don't
Yeah.
think was so
Yeah.
popular here in the US, but I think is it's certainly a more stressful role than the one he has here. I think it's
Yeah.
nice to see him a little bit more relaxed, even if he's been waiting so long. But I'm
Yeah.
curious about casting these roles and if there were any challenges to finding the right three people for them.
I mean, it is a dream cast. I got so lucky. I think it's not so much a challenge, it's just deeply anxiety inducing. I think you write a script, and I think Pat and I worked so hard, but I think then you have your actors in mind. And I always had kind of Miles and Lizzie in mind. I just was really excited to see them kind of push their comedic chops. And I think they really are that holy grail of an actor that can be deeply funny 1 minute and really moving the next. I think there's so few people that can do that so beautifully and so subtly, and they're extraordinary. So it's just a case of going to them and hoping they say yes and praying that they respond to the script. And I feel really fortunate that they did. And Callum was kind of the remaining piece in that puzzle that was so important because in the wrong hands, that's just quite an attractive man, but he really understood all the insecurities um and layers to Luke that I wanted to bring, like the idea that it's a man who's putting on this facade for 67 years and is ready to almost explode with the expectations of perfection that are put upon him. And Callan has had such an instinctual understanding of all that, and he really approached the humor of it all with such a lack of ego. So I met him for a coffee in Soho. I'd seen him in Green Room and loved that. It was before Boys in the Boat and some of his bigger work came out, but I just instantly fell in love with him. Before I'd finished my coffee, I knew he was the only person who could play that role. And I think what the three of them have is they just visually have uh, the look of film of actors that could be in an earlier time, be in the golden era. I mean, they really feel like I always say, but I feel like Lizzie's like this the love child of Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon somehow, and you know I think Miles does such a wonderful young Al Brooks type performance, and Callum really does feel like I like the revival of Montgomery Clift. So you wanted actors that felt like they could exist in those films that the spirit of which we really wanted to bring to this, you know, those old Wilders or Sturges or Lubitsch films.
And in the supporting cast, Dave Vine is obviously great, but I'm especially impressed by the use of John Early because I feel like too much John Early is a good thing, but not in a film that's not like it's not. This is not Maddie's Secret. This is not Search Party. Not one of the
Yeah,
other things. And so I like that he is like perfectly good. Every time he seems like he's go a little much, he just sort of stops himself.
yeah.
And I love the pairing of those two. I think it's a lot of fun.
It is. I mean, I'm going to go on the record and say you can never have too much John Early. He's just he's just the best. Um, and yeah, I mean, I again, I really wanted Devine, and I thought when she won the Oscar, I had no chance of getting her for this because she would just be out of my wee little league. But thankfully, she just really responded to the role, and she loved Anna on the page, and she really loves the relationship between Anna and Larry specifically. And so, yeah, it was a gift to have her. And the Pat and I really put a lot of work into those characters on the page. We really wanted them to feel like that Greek chorus and be there to guide our characters and give the rules and explain things. But John and Devine are just so funny and so brilliant, and they really made them the characters leap off of the page in a way I wasn't fully expecting. And they even just aside from being hilarious scene stealers, they gave it a kind of layers of depth, and you have that kind of will they won't they of their own relationship bubbling as this wonderful subplot in the background that I almost want to carry on and just continue and do a sequel to it. They're a joy to watch and a joy to work with, and they don't steal any focus from our three kind of leads, but they're just an extraordinary addition to it all. And I think my favorite days on set were when we had all five of them together. You could just feel the chemistry and the electricity, and you could see how much they loved working with each other, and they almost just turned into teenagers, like almost unruly. I felt like a teacher at some points, but it was just, you know, you had goosebumps behind the camera because you could see the fun they were having, and you could see how much they were feeding off each other, and really every single one of those individual relationships just felt fully formed. So yeah, it's kind of this kind of cast is just an embarrassment of riches.
I would watch that sequel, but I'm also seeing like a 6 season TV spinoff where every episode doesn't have to be them, whoever it is goes into a different eternity because I feel like you conceived of so much and some of it is
Yeah.
like blink or miss it. And there must have been so many options that are also didn't end up in the film, right?
Yeah, there's so many worlds. Like I spent I wrote a lot of them into the script, and I think a lot of them that feature in the script. But then I remember going on realizing that we actually have to populate an entire production, an entire set of eternities. So I would spend like all my dog walks just thinking of new eternities for pamphlets, for brochures, and the different booths that festoon the set. And it was just really fun, just thinking of things from the ridiculous to the sublime, but things that were jokes, but then with a truth behind them, something behind a kernel of truth behind them that would be an idea of happiness for somebody. So that was a really joyous thing. We ended up with like almost 70 worlds, and built as many as we could. And there's definitely a few that didn't make the cut in the end, just because you can only shoot so much, that I myself and my designers Azu still kind of regret not getting them in there somehow. So yeah, but it was just a really, it was really fun to make it. We had a lot of fun making it, but even just exploring the idea of a world in which you get to choose your idea of happiness was a lovely thing to explore, and a lovely space to exist in for a while.
You have a favorite that didn't make the cut and a personal hell that you manifested into one?
Yeah, my personal hell is workout worlds, where you can't change your body, but you can still feel bad about yourself. That just, I mean, is disgusting. And there's a Blitz world I loved, which the tagline was "Men, where men are men and all the bullets are blanks," which I thought was just a great little indictment of masculinity. And also I love the design of that. So I regret that that didn't make the cut. But like, there's great, like some of my favorite designs aesthetically are the least appealing worlds. Like I love Capitalist World as a design. I want it as a poster, but I do not want to go there. Um, so yeah, there's an embarrassment of riches again.
We can talk about it theoretically, but do you actually want to continue this in some way if given the opportunity?
It started as a joke in production, just because I love that world so much, and I loved, working with the ACs and John and Divine. Of like, you could do a really funny workplace comedy where Divine and John guide newly dead every week, like a mash, like a mix up between like the Love Boat and MASH, but then the joke became real because I started thinking of plots and characters, and I love, like, my favorite show of all time is MASH, which is essentially a work-based comedy that came from a film, and we reference it in this film. So it is something I would love to explore. I just love this world that we created so much, and it existing in it gives me so much happiness that if the opportunity arose in the future, I would not say no. But that's first let's get the film out there, and then we can deal with what comes next.
Well, once this film is out there, what's next for you?
I mean, I have projects that I really want to make. Like most filmmakers, you have a little drawer of passion projects that you hope someday you can make. And that's 2 years ago that was Eternity. So hopefully one of them can be made. And I mean, I think it, this film set a really high bar. Not just the making of it was so fun, but it was such an inventive and exciting place to be. And I did get to do so much in this that I've always wanted to do with a film. So trying to choose what I want to do next will be tough. But I do know I want it to be really funny and really moving. I just love making people laugh, making them cry. And that's the best feeling in the world. So I don't know what it will be, but hopefully it'll make people laugh.
What else is making you, moved and laugh this year, movie wise? What have you seen recently that's really impressing you?
Oh my God. I mean, I mean, I'm gonna join the chorus and say how much I loved One Battle After Another, and obviously Sinners I thought was extraordinary. There's an incredible English film, Ballad of Wallace Island, that I thought was the most beautiful, endearing film, extraordinarily written, beautifully acted, really tender, and really, really, really hilarious. I think that might be my film of the year. Um, uh, and then there was also another English film called I Swear I thought was brilliant, which has come out in cinemas in the UK and is doing incredibly well. I think it's coming out in America soon. And then I'm really excited for some of the upcoming films. Obviously, there's so many, but I'm really excited to see Pillion. I cannot wait to see that. And any all the other films that are coming out in this window. I also, oh, sorry, Baby. genius film, beautiful, beautiful film. So yeah, it's always that fun time of year where you get to see the things people have been talking about through the season for so long. So I'm looking forward to that. And also I should shout out that there's so many great as an Irish filmmaker, there's so many great Irish films coming up that I hope people look out for. Like Saipan, which I think is going to be incredible, and the stars the wonderful Ina Hardwick, who's going to be a superstar. So yeah, there's lots of films from the big to the small that I hope people check out and that I'm excited to see.
You're the second person recently to say I swear, so I have to check that one out. That's
It,
I have not
it's
seen yet.
yeah, it's brilliant. It's really, really brilliant.
Awesome. Well, David, this has been a real pleasure. I wish you luck deciding what's next, and for now, bask in the glow of eternity, and good luck in the future.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Abe. That was really fun.